Welcome back to the Get Good Scrub podcast. It's your boy, Cool Guy Fond. We're joined by our very own Deathlock, MarcTheCyborg.
Deathlock of Marvel's. Wait, no. Yeah, it was Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Wow.
Yeah, I only remember it because the guy who played Gunn from Angel was Deathlock. I wasn't a big Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, but I did like me some old Joss Whedon TV shows, and Gunn, that actor, you just don't see him in much anymore. He was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then disappeared entirely. I thought he was good, too.
I'm pretty surprised he was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but granted, he's been in the comics for much longer.
Yeah, and Joss Whedon, oh, you mean the character. Sorry, I thought you meant Gunn. But everyone should watch Angel. Angel's a good show.
On the docket today, we got some news and notes from the latest events in the games industry. One of those events was QuakeCon, where you've just actually made a video on the history of Quake. So how did you feel about the recent remaster?
I was super happy about this announcement and pretty much everything about it, because one of the points in that video that I made that's on Geeks and Gamers, I'll put the link for it in the description, but I made a video on the history of the entire Quake series, and while I was researching it, I tried to download a Quake game on consoles just so I could get some footage of some of the console ports of the Quake games, because there's been quite a few over the years, and searching the word Quake on any of the platforms, on PlayStation, on Xbox, on Nintendo eShop, 0 results across the board. So I was like, man, console players today have no means, no possibility of even firing up an old, even bad Quake game like Enemy Territory, which I'm sorry to splash damage Enemy Territory, I did not like at all. But now Quake 1, which is in my opinion, the best Quake game, or at least the best Quake campaign, is available for $10 or $13.99 Canadian on, of course, Steam, but also Xbox One, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch. I'm such a big fan of the series that I bought all of them and played all of them, or at least played a bit of them all, and they all run fantastically well. There's 120 FPS modes for the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 versions. Even the Nintendo Switch version runs at like a solid 60 frames a second, and you have gyroscope aim controls on the Switch version too, so you can get a bit more precise with the targeting. Quake's a game that, especially on higher difficulties, playing with the keyboard and mouse is sort of your best way to go, but the gyro aiming, in addition to the analog sticks, is pretty close. It's got cross-play, co-op, and deathmatch for up to 4 players, which is nuts. So if you log in with your Bethesda account, you can play with people on Switch and PC, and if you own the game on Steam, you got a free upgrade too. So sadly not on GOG, but it was really cool that id Software and Bethesda and Microsoft put out that remaster, because Quake is a game that was getting lost to history, and that was making me sad.
Well, although Wolfenstein 3D and Doom came out before it, Quake was the first modern FPS in which the ability to run, jump, and mouse aim were combined with 3D accelerators to like create a more immersive environment, right?
Yeah, it was totally made with polygons, and that is not something that was very common even in old shooters. A lot of them had a lot of 2D tricks, even the original Doom and the original Wolfenstein 3D, but Quake was 100% 3D. There are things too that they did for this remaster, like they added a section of E2M6, which is episode 2, mission 6, I believe it was, where they couldn't do a certain thing because of the hardware limitations at the time, and they actually put that back in, so that was pretty cool. I haven't gotten that far in the remaster yet, just because I've been busy with all the Metroid stuff I've been doing, but that, and of course the soundtrack, which I know might actually get me to talk Fonza to playing Quake after all these years.
You know what? I might be looking to get it on the Switch, because I'm borrowing a Switch for a month or two from a friend of mine. So, you know what? To give it some more extra money and listen to that soundtrack from Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails, might as well. The new game includes better lighting, better modules, as well as an addition to the dynamic shadows and motion blur. Mm-hmm. But getting back to the soundtrack, I was reading, so it wasn't lawsuits or
Rights.
rights that stopped it from coming out on remasters before. It was that the soundtrack was embedded into the actual game, and when they transferred the audio files, newer PCs were not able to convert the audio files or in its actual game form because it was on the actual CD. Sorry, that's what it was. It was on the actual CD that you put inside your like
Your
laptop
PC
or
at the time.
your
Yeah.
PC at the time. And modern PCs just didn't use the same transcoding, and they weren't going to pay Trent Reznor to redo everything. So they kind of just let it be until Trent Reznor re-released all the songs on vinyl last year, I think it was.
Yeah, I have the vinyl. I don't really have it handy, but that vinyl is here. Actually, you know what? Here, this is not live, so I actually can do this. All right, and I'm done traveling through time because I was able to locate my vinyl of the Quake soundtrack that I gotta here getting good light. So
There you
it's
go.
not reflecting all of my lighting.
There you go.
It's got the Nine Inch Nails logo on there. I haven't opened it up yet because I do have the entire soundtrack on the GOG version, so I can listen to it anytime I want anyways, but having that vinyl just as a collector's item was the second it was announced. I saw a Quake logo come up on Nine Inch Nails Facebook page, and I'm just like, oh, what's happening? What's happening here? They're like, Quake soundtrack being released on vinyl. I'm like, take all my money. I think it was like $40 or something like that. It actually wasn't too bad. Game soundtrack vinyls are sometimes crazy expensive because they usually do such limited runs of them. But this one I think was like $40, not insane. But the soundtrack's really good too. It's not like a Nine Inch Nails album. So like, don't be like, oh, okay, this is basically going to be like With Teeth Part 2. Not exactly. It's more like the work that he did on The Social Network and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, like kind of the creepy like tones and things like that, like ambient score. And it works really well for Quake, and it makes it seem much different than the Doom games. The Doom games are more like Metallica, or like more like a normal Nine Inch Nails album, like kind of industrial rock and very
Pretty Hate
heavy,
Machine.
very fast paced. Whereas the Quake soundtrack is very, very moody, and it's pretty cool. Except for the theme. The main theme's pretty aggressive.
Yeah. So and just to mention that Quake vinyl that you have was re-released with the Social Network as well. He did both of them in the same time.
Right on.
Then moving on as well at QuakeCon, we had big news as always. Skyrim, The Elder Scrolls V, will be re-released on November 11th, marking the fourth time Bethesda has re-released this game in 10 years, and will mean that it is on 8 different consoles at this point.
Sure.
Yeah,
honestly, my reaction every time Skyrim gets re-released, I'm just like, all right. I mean, I'm not gonna play it again, but I'm sure there are people out there that Skyrim is like their game, and that they love the ability to just replay it again on another platform. I'm happy they have that option. Personally, I think I would be a lot happier, even for those people, if Bethesda would just re-release Oblivion.
Yeah, you really loved Oblivion.
Oblivion was really good, and I honestly think in a lot of ways it's better than Skyrim. In particular, I think the guild quests, in particular the Dark Brotherhood quest in Oblivion, is incredible. And I think that if they clean that game up and modernized it a little bit, use some of the Skyrim mechanics, the way there's a bunch of modders that are making this project called Skyblivion. That's basically, they're just remaking Oblivion in the Skyrim tool set.
That's
and cool. I honestly think that Bethesda could probably just hire those guys and be like, hey, like, why don't you come over and do this? Like actually CD Projekt is doing for Cyberpunk right now. They just hired a whole bunch of the modders that were working on Cyberpunk and be like, hey, you guys who are right now fixing our game for free because you're so passionate about it, take some money. Like,
yeah, and do it as a real job.
That. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, here's some more resources. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll officially release it.
Well, as Todd Howard said, we'll stop remaking the game when people stop buying it. So
I
You
mean,
know.
I can't argue with that either, to be fair.
Besides the next gen upgrade, you'll also get all the DLC and 500 pieces of Creation Club content, which is pretty cool if you're part of that group. But if you don't really care, then I guess you don't care.
What's interesting for the console players, especially though, for if they're giving away Creation Club content for free, is basically those are just paid mods. Like that kind of is the idea of Bethesda taking modders work and trying to both sell them to make themselves money, but also to make the content creators, like the actual modders, money. Wasn't the best idea, and I think for the most part the PC gaming community and the mod community kind of like the system of, we're just going to release a mod on Nexus for free, and then we'll have a little link for PayPal. If you really like the mod, just throw me some cash.
Yeah.
And I'll keep making stuff like that. And that works really well in the PC space. For consoles, I don't know if console players would really like, or I mean, I'm not talking about all console players. I know there's a bunch of people who play consoles that have a good handle on what mods are, but the mass market gamer who, again, only plays Skyrim, or like Skyrim, FIFA, and Call of Duty are their games, and that's what they play. I think if you said, hey, go online and download this mod, and then it'll make it so that you could have one of the dragons in Skyrim be Macho Man Randy Savage, they'll be like, well, I mean, can't I just go on the PlayStation Store and download it? It's like, no, you have to download this thing, and then there's a PayPal link. You can throw the guy some cash if you want. They're going to be like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. And that's sad, but, you know, I mean, that's the way of it. And Creation Club was an attempt to bridge that gap and bring some mods to console. I don't think they did it very well. And
Like, is there a mod where you can put Macho Man Randy Savage as a
that's
dragon?
That's like one of the most famous Skyrim mods.
Yeah!
Really?
Yeah. Like, you're going to be hitting YouTube immediately. In fact, I think I might have just sold Fonz a copy of Skyrim.
Yo. Like, I know you're not in that world right now, but like the wrestling world is on fuego right now.
Oh, I know. Jeremy is constantly having streams on Sports Wars about it with Az. Apparently, there's some new wrestling league that's got CM Punk in his...
CM Punk, the voice of the voiceless, is back.
See, this is where I'm going to turn into the scrub. If we start going into wrestling, Fonz knows what he's talking about. I know very little.
Oh, man.
I know that Bret the Hitman Hart is a Canadian treasure, and that's about it.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Almost how Bethesda thinks of Skyrim. That's pretty funny. But moving on, we also had another digital conference. This one put on by 3D Realm Studios, the wonderful people that brought us Duke Nukem into our lives. Realms Deep took place from August 13th to August 15th. Basically a retro FPS convention of retro shooters. You definitely downloaded the Project Warlock demo on Steam.
Yes, I do. And disclosure on that, I also pitched in on the Kickstarter for Project Warlock 2 because I really loved the first game, and one of my first videos, I think the third video that I ever made was a review of Project Warlock, and that kind of got me from having like 25 subs, of which Fonz, I believe, was one, to over 500 subs because It's a Gundam tweeted out my Project Warlock review. And so Project Warlock's always been pretty special to me. And man, the Project Warlock 2 demo is really, really solid. It seems like they've taken the core framework of Project Warlock, which was kind of a old school Doom looking first person shooter with maze type levels and keys and everything like that, and mixed it with a bit of RPG elements. So you have like upgrades and spells, and you can modify your weapons in all sorts of cool ways. And the Project Warlock 2 demo it's one level, but it's really, really big and really expansive and very difficult, actually. Like, there was a lot of situations in it where there's only one difficulty, and it's normal, that's available in the demo. And I found myself really needing to conserve my ammo and be switching between different weapons in order to maximize the amount of resources that I had. I thought it was kind of neat too that there were specific enemies that would always drop certain items. So there was this one enemy called the Imp who would always drop 5 health. So if you saw a few imps, it would make more sense to kill some of the other enemies in the room, then kill the imps last so that you can pick up the health after your battle, especially if you entered it with full health. There's these skeleton guys that always drop assault rifle ammo, and these other dudes that drop shotgun shells every single time. So you're constantly switching between these weapons. It was really, really good. And I mean, again, I always say buyer beware when it comes to Kickstarter, so I'm not saying jump on the Project Warlock 2 Kickstarter and throw them a bunch of money now, but I would say it would be worthwhile if you're on Steam, check out the demo, because it's free, and throw it on your wish list, because wishlisting indie games helps out indie developers a lot. And Jakob Sislo is the guy who's the developer of it, and he made the first game just totally on his own. I think he's got some more resources behind this one, but it's good stuff. Check out Project Warlock.
Oh, sweet. I did not know that about the wish listing indie games. I didn't think it made a difference.
Yeah, well, because that's how they get, it's like an algorithm thing. It's kind of like and subscribing for this video and leaving a comment, and it boosts them in the algorithm. So as Steam's recommendeds populate and people are like, okay, so if you play a bunch of shooters and there's a shooter that's kind of similar to a bunch of games you played and 5,000 people have recently wishlisted it, Steam is more likely to show you that game, to be like, oh, hey, all these players who like games that you like also want to play this game, so maybe throw it on your wish list. And then you get notified if it's on sale too. So if it comes out and you're like $30, too rich for my blood, I'll wait till it's 10. Steam will tell you when it's 10.
That's awesome. Still no release date for Project Warlock, just says due in 2022. Also at Realms Deep, we had Wrath of Aeon Ruin.
Yeah, Wrath Aeon of Ruin. Kind of some bad news about Wrath. The game director, I believe, left the project, I think due to burnout. And I think it was also one of the level designers too. And this is a game that I've played quite a bit of. It's been in early access for quite some time, and it's made with the original Quake engine. Speaking of the original Quake, and one of the things that they said about the delays they've had and the troubles they've had finishing the project is it was actually a pretty neat example, because they said what takes us 2 seconds if we're making a game on like the Unreal Engine 4 takes a week making it in the Quake engine, because we have to change so much stuff and there's not a lot of tools in place to be like, okay, you change this, we'll automatically do all this for you. It's like, no, if we change this, we changed a piece at the bottom of our Lego structure. So for us to even get there, we got to kind of take things apart at the top so that the whole thing doesn't tumble down. Yeah. And I feel for them for that. It's a really cool project. You've got this neat like arm sword thing that can dash you forward in it. It's got one of the best shotguns in any game I've ever played. And Wrath Aeon of Ruin is another one to throw on the wish list, but you might have to wait some time for that one, because again, small team, and they don't have a lot of support, and they're doing a really hard job. So give them a wish list.
Add it to the wish list. As well, we had Project Downfall, which is similar to Hotline Miami, which you were a huge fan of. You dressed up as one of the characters for Fan Expo.
I did, yeah, Fan Expo. I dressed up as Jacket, the protagonist of Hotline Miami. And I don't know too much about Project Downfall, other than the art style looks almost exactly like Hotline Miami, just in 3D instead of 2D top-down. And it seems like it's got some real cool like slow motion John Wick style stuff to it. So yeah, another one to keep your eye on, but I don't really know too much about that one.
And finally, releasing September 17th, we have Severed Steel.
Yeah, Severed Steel is really good. I don't think the demo for Severed Steel is still live, but there is a clip of me playing on the hardest difficulty, the Molten Steel difficulty, on this channel in the gameplay highlights playlist, and I'll throw the link in the description also. So I don't know, if you want to see me playing through the hardest difficulty of this game's demo, check that out. It's got a neat mix of Tron style visuals, kind of like another game that I really like called Get to the Orange Door. With some Titanfall running, you can slow down time, so we're going to throw things into bullet time like Max Payne, and you have this dodge move where you can kind of dive through windows and things like that. You play as this girl with one arm too, so it's like it always seems like you're holding like even assault rifles just with the one arm and like shooting it one-handed. So it's a pretty slick, stylish game, and I definitely recommend checking out Severed Steel as well. And it's coming out on September 17th, so yeah, just in a little over a week, I guess. Week and a bit.
Week and a bit.
From when we're recording, yeah, I guess maybe a week or less for when this comes out, but keep on forgetting that I have to edit. We are not live.
And then moving on, we had your favorite awkward conference, which was Microsoft at Gamescom.
Yeah, it was not good. Which I feel bad. The guy hosting it, Paris, he's a kind of gaming content creator on YouTube, and he seems like a really nice guy. I think he's got great stage presence and does good presentations. But man, they were not giving him a lot to work with at this conference. They spent a lot of time talking about Flight Simulator, which I get it. Flight Simulator is a pretty big game, and it's getting a lot of momentum now that it's on consoles as well, on Xbox consoles. But I don't know. It's just like, well, we're adding some more planes to Flight Simulator. It's like, okay, cool. Then they did like maybe 15 minutes on the Trebuchet documentary that is something that you can access from Age of Empires 4. But I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of like DVD special features content for this game that's also not out yet, and they didn't really show anything from the game.
The Sea of Thieves, they showed just the Borderlands.
A Borderlands collaboration for Sea of Thieves. Not quite the punch that the Pirates of the Caribbean thing that we thought was pretty cool a couple episodes ago. But okay.
Just trying to get Borderlands in everything,
Into the Pit looked all right. That's another kind of boomer shooter style game that's a roguelike, but I don't know, like a fantasy kind of Hexen heretic style game. But
they also showed some Forza Horizon 5, but nothing.
Yeah, but again,
nothing game breaking.
Forza Horizon 5 though was kind of their big show ender for E3. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's like,
what's weird is that they didn't show was anything for Halo, which is being like they saved it for another conference, even though that's Halo's flagship game. That's Microsoft's flagship game this year, or I would assume it will be. But the release date is December 8th.
Yeah, which worries me a little.
Yeah, without a co-op campaign, so they're releasing it unfinished.
The campaign, and I'm assuming the multiplayer as well. I think for pre-orders and everything, they're saying campaign. But because the multiplayer in Halo Infinite is going to be free, I don't know if that means, hey, literally only the campaign. We're going to keep working on the multiplayer, and then we'll launch the multiplayer in February or something. Or it's probably going to be like the whole package. But what it will not have, as Fonz was kind of touching on, is no co-op campaign, which, I mean, that's a shame. I don't
Forge.
No Forge. And again, I don't think that doesn't personally bother me because I've never really messed around in Forge. Obviously, especially if you played Halo Reach, you played a shitload of Forge maps that are made by other people. But I've never really wanted to play around in the Forge mode myself because I don't know. I've never been much of one to be like, ooh, I want to build a Doom mod or like that's just not really my area of interest when it comes to video games. I love playing the stuff that other people make that are more talented than me, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever had any desire to make things in Forge. However, I have played a lot of Halo campaign co-op. In fact, I think Fonz and I have played every Halo game except for 5 because I don't think I disliked 5 so much that I didn't even want Fonz to like come over and play 5 with me.
No, we never did a ODST either. I've played the single, but I've never did a co-op ODST.
Could you do ODST co-op?
Maybe we couldn't even do it, but I remember not doing it.
I guess that one, the campaign's structured in sort of a weird way in ODST, where you've got like overworld kind of map that you keep on going back to where you're playing as the rookie, And
Yeah.
then you go into areas and there's like a flashback to earlier that day and you're playing as one of the other members of the ODST squad. But that's a good one. I actually liked ODST quite a bit. But anyways, I don't think though for me personally how long is it? 3 months is the delay for campaign co-op?
Is that what they said? I don't think they've released it.
Oh, did they?
No.
I thought they were saying something about it being 3 months for campaign I might be totally wrong on this.
No, from what I've heard, it is December 8th is campaign, and everything will be released afterwards.
Well, I think that for me personally, I don't totally mind because it's like, well, I'm going to want to play through the game solo first and then probably run through it with some friends or like probably even Fonz co-op afterwards. So if there's a bit of a delay, I don't think that's a deal breaker for me. However, it does make me think, well, if you're this close to launch, having delayed it a year, and something as simple as like the campaign co-op is like that's
yeah.
I mean, realistically, you just got to throw another character model in there, and once someone gets to a cinematic, you have that character disappear, unless they want to try to do it in a way where it's like, well, this story is actually about Chief and the 3 other Spartans that happen to be there, or like I think in in Halo 3 it was Chief, Arbiter, and then I think it was 2 other elites. That are like 2 other just random dudes that aren't there.
That just followed you around, yeah.
Yeah, they're not there if you're playing single player or 2 player, but they're there if you're 4 player. And I mean, the original Halo, it was just there were 2 Master Chiefs during gameplay. Deal with it.
Yeah.
And Halo 2, I think, did the same thing. Though Halo 2 is the one where I think if you've beaten Halo 2 co-op on Legendary, you're a pro gamer. Like that was the hardest.
You're both a pro gamer.
Both pro gamers. Yeah. That was ridiculous because every other Halo game, even Halo 1, playing on Legendary co-op, if you die and your teammate moves far enough away from combat, you just respawn. And if you both die at the same time, then you start at the last checkpoint. But in Halo 2, at least on Xbox, I don't know about the remaster because I haven't played that co-op yet. If either of the players die, you both go back to the checkpoint immediately. So not only did you have to execute each encounter perfectly, your buddy did at the same time. And if you guys, the odds of both people being in sync were so low that I don't think it's possible. I've never actually heard of anyone actually doing it. I'm sure they have, but man, we were like, well, this just isn't happening. We couldn't even get past the first level.
Yeah. No, that was, we definitely never did it, but that was the most intense thing. I think we just started the first level over and over again. And
I have beaten Halo 2 on Legendary solo.
Solo, yeah, of course.
That can be done. And don't get me wrong, though, it sucks because the Jackal snipers, whew, I'm hearing the theme to Platoon, and the camera is slowly moving in on my face right now. Like that's
you're getting the PTSD just
the
thinking
memories
about it.
of those Jackal snipers. It's just they one shot you from off camera, and you only made it through if you had a ton of skill and a little bit of luck. Because without the luck, you weren't going to make it. Which I mean, realistically, not a bad simulator for Master Chief, because that was the thing Cortana always said that none of the other Spartans did. He had luck.
Yeah. Moving on, something me and you are pretty passionate about and looking forward to. On January 21st, Elden Ring will be released. And
Yes.
we got a better look at what's coming out for that game, especially a better look at what George R. R. Martin's role is in this game. And something we'll be discussing is they're introducing an easy mode. Based in a character design, which I thought was real.
So this I tweeted this out. I didn't write this meme. I found the meme on like a Facebook page. I don't know, like someone. I don't even remember who originally shared it, so I can't even credit the person who I took it from. I would though if you tell me it was you. I'll make a tweet saying, hey, that meme I had that blew up, it wasn't me, it was this guy. It's a fake article though. There is a writer on the meme, So I'm assuming that Vic Victor is the guy who did, or Vic Victory. Vic Victory? I think it's Vic Victory. But yeah, essentially the meme just kind of, the whole first paragraph of it, because it's like a fake article. So there's one paragraph that's really straight-laced, and it just basically says, yeah, no, like Elden Ring is going to have a special class that's going to be what will effectively be an easy mode for players who don't want to deal with the game's intense challenge. And I'd say 80% of the tweets that I got back just read that much or just read the headline.
I was definitely one of them.
Yeah. And but then if you keep reading, it basically says that special class will be referred to as the journalist, and upon selecting it, the game hard crashes, deletes itself from the hard drive, and basically just locks you out from the game entirely. And then they said, like, when asked why Miyazaki would include such a mode, that he basically says something to the effect of, like, I make hard games for a reason, get good, you fucking casuals.
Wow.
And, like, I would never be that harsh about someone who like would desire an easy mode, and like despite the name of this podcast, like I get it if you don't want to deal with the challenge. I think that if you apply yourself, assuming like you are physically able to play a video game, I think that you can play a Dark Souls game. If you have physical disadvantages that make it very, very difficult for you to play any game, then that's a bit of a different story. I think things like adaptive controllers and mods too, if you want to go around that, are fine. I just don't, what I don't like, and we've talked about this before, I don't like it when developers are bullied into making easy modes for people because they just want to see the pretty lights and colors of the game. And then they use the disabled, such as myself. Granted, my hands are fine, but like I play VR games even though I only have one leg, so there's a lot of things that I do in gaming that I had to just practice really hard at and take really slow and deal with. I think I remember one of the first things I ever played was a Spider-Man Homecoming VR experience, which was free to download. There's not really much to it. Basically, you're on a rooftop in Brooklyn or Queens, I guess is where Spider-Man's from, and you practice with web shooters for a little bit, and then you swing up to a crane and Vulture attacks you, and then the thing ends. And I remember that I was fine with most of it, but then when I got up on the crane, I like looked down and my balance on my prosthetic was just not where it needed to be. Luckily, I was playing on VR pretty close to a couch, and I just backed up to the couch. I'm like, whoa, that was a little too much. And that would happen a lot. I'd be playing games like Robo Recall. I'd be able to play for like a minute and a half, and then I'd have to pause it and sit down for 5 minutes. And then before I know it, I'd be playing for 5 minutes, and then I'd sit down for a minute and a half. Next thing I know, like I could link in the description also, I have now reviewed Half-Life Alyx that I played entirely standing. So you get better at things over time, and like what seemed impossible at first tends to not be as you chip away at it. But yeah, that meme was very funny, and it's absolutely my most successful tweet. I had like 5,000 likes on it and like over 1,000 retweets. I was like, oh
boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Getting back to Elden Ring, we have a lot more insight of what George R. R. Martin's going to do. So he just created more of the backstory of all the characters that are in the game. Didn't really have anything to do with development or of the actual story of the game, just how it's created, which if you've ever watched a George R. R. Martin TV show, that is something he excels at to allow other people to take over from. Now, what they do with this information, that's up to the writers. But From Software Games seems like they know what they're doing and will be able to build on the world that George R. R. Martin created for them.
I think that the good thing about Miyazaki being the person to take the reins of a George R. R. Martin outline versus, that fantasy show that shall not be named, is that Miyazaki doesn't really go overboard explaining everything in his games. In fact, you could honestly make the argument that he goes underboard explaining not nearly enough, and making it so that people have to hop on YouTube and go to Vati Vidya's channel and watch Dark Souls lore videos. But what's neat about that is the gameplay takes center stage. And I think that that's always been the thing that I've really liked about the Dark Souls method of storytelling. that, it's there if you want it. And it's always there creating atmosphere for you, whether you're paying attention to it or not. So you can tell that there is a story behind everything that's going on, but it's not something that you need to be paying attention to in order to have fun playing the game. Like, realistically, you can get through Dark Souls not listening to a single line of dialogue, and you won't even really be lost as to where you should be going next, any more so than you are if you listen to every single line that's spoken. Like, Dark Souls is just one of those games that it's like, well, okay, I know I have to ring 2 bells. Where are the bells? I don't know, find them. It's like, okay, find them and
but
everything's going to try to kill me.
From Software games are known for like their gameplay being the driving force of it, not their narrative abilities, right?
Exactly.
However,
whereas
this
Game of Thrones, as much as you could be like all the fight scenes and all the sex scenes and stuff for the reason you watch the show, it's like, well, but really it was the characters and everything. The characters and the
story.
stories.
Yeah. But this will be From Software's most narrative-driven game. So I am looking forward to that. Like almost every open world game nowadays, since The Witcher, you have a horse that you can summon. It's a ghost horse though, so that's gonna be kind of cool. That
it's a horse that can use jump pads.
That you can summon. Yo, that's actually pretty key. That you can summon and help you traverse the lands, which are pretty dangerous. Like, it's not gonna be very similar to Ghost of Tsushima, where you're riding your horse, like, you're gonna run into some enemies that you shouldn't have ran into, and if you're not prepared to battle, I assume you're gonna die. Well, you're gonna die a lot in this game, so.
And that's okay. That's the thing to remember about the From games. Dying is all right. Every single one of them's a learning experience.
Oddly enough, just get back on your horse and try again.
Get back on your magic horse and keep riding.
Like, we're not expecting you to be good.
They say we're not ending the show yet. We can't do that.
No worries. No worries. But we are looking forward to that game, and I will assume you're going to do a full-on review of that game when it comes out.
Yes. It will be a little late, though, because I'm also starting school in like 2 weeks from this recording. It's basically an advanced medic course for, like, I'm still going to be doing the same job like as an army medic. It's just I'm going to have a wider scope of practice and a bit more medical authority, but it is going to be from the end of September to the beginning of February. So I right around the time that Elden Ring comes out is when I'm going to be having my final exams and probably my field exercise, which, being in February and being in Canada, it's going to be real cold. And I'm not going to be warm at home playing Elden Ring. So I'm likely going to finish it later than most people. But I'm going to take my time and maybe even play through it twice, depending on the length of it and the flexibility for character classes. And when I do make the video, I think I'm gonna do a good job, because I really love those games a lot. And I think the From Software games deserve my focus and my time. So I'd rather do it well than to just pump out a video to have like, oh, well, it's launch day, so here's my my initial thoughts on the first hour of Elden Ring. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
I played as the journalist.
Yeah. Played as the journalist, and I beat the game in 7 minutes. It was awesome.
Moving on, something else you're pretty passionate about. On October 8th, Switch is releasing Metroid Dread. For the first time in 19 years, a full canonical game of Metroid is being released on the Switch. You're currently making a video for the Metroid universe.
Yeah, and I think that judging by the pace that I'm getting through the games, it's probably going to release after Dread comes out and include Dread, which, again, I'll also be in school at the time, so might not be the fastest video I ever crank out, but again, I'm starting school in a couple weeks. I've currently finished Metroid 1, 2, and 3, which is Super Metroid, Metroid 4, which is Fusion, which was the last canonical numbered Metroid game. And today, while I was at the prosthetics clinic, I beat Zero Mission as well, and that one is very short, and actually the one that I would recommend playing if you've never played a Metroid game before. Metroid Zero Mission is a remake of the original game that kind of incorporates a lot of the gameplay elements of Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion into it. So it's a lot smoother to play. It's way less difficult because there's actually a map in it. There's no map in the original Metroid. So basically I had my phone out the entire time I was playing Metroid 1, trying to figure out where the hell I was half the time. But I got through it. I did eventually get through it. But Zero Mission was a much more pleasant experience. And I finished Metroid Prime, playing Metroid Prime with a mouse and keyboard, everybody. Oh, that was one good-ass video game. I played the original Metroid Prime on GameCube back in the day, and I didn't really like it. This was the era of where Halo was the top dog when it came to shooters, and the controls in Metroid Prime on GameCube. I actually fired up the GameCube version just to play around with the controls to see how I felt, and you're using the left analog stick to both go forward and to turn, so you're not strafing, and the C stick didn't do anything. You're locking on targets. You're kind of holding one trigger to look up and down also with the stick. It's just very, very bad controls, and it really didn't click with me at the time. But replaying Metroid Prime on the Dolphin emulator, the Wii version of it, with the Prime hack that gives you mouse keyboard controls, oh man, Metroid Prime, it's up there now with my favorite games of all time. It's incredible. It just really controlled like shit when it launched. But so I'm really looking forward to Metroid Dread, I guess, to get back to the topic at hand. The new trailer also looked kind of cool. It seems almost like the Chozos might be the villains in it. The first trailer only showed that Emmy robot, EMMI, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's EMMI, is the robot that hunts you in Metroid Dread. And it kind of seemed like the first trailer that was going to be the main antagonist, but this second trailer showed Samus kind of coming face to face with a Chozo, who I think are supposed to be basically gone. Although in playing Zero Mission, it looked like Samus was raised by the Chozo, which was kind of an interesting thing. But I have some lore to be looking into on that. So if you're a Metroid expert, give me time. I'm still doing research. But Dread looks really good. It's being made by Mercury Steam, who made the 3DS remake of Metroid 2 that I will be playing for this video as well, but I haven't got to it yet, so I can't really speak to it. Fonzo, you said you're looking to get a Switch. Are you looking to play Metroid?
Yeah, definitely gonna play Metroid Prime. The screenshot of the dragon, that's Kraid, right?
Ridley is the one that looks like a dragon. Kraid looks more like a really fat alligator.
Okay. And they're both Chozos?
No. They're space pirates.
Got it.
The Chozos kind of look like the Egyptian god Horus. They're like eagles, I guess. But they're humanoid. They've got two legs and arms, and they have beaks. The statues that you get I guess if you haven't played a lot of Metroid games, in all the Metroid games, there'll always be these statues that are kind of sitting with their knees up, and they have their hands out like that, and there's usually a ball that you then shoot, and inside the ball is a power-up that gives you either, I don't know, a missile ability or the ability to go into the morph ball, bombs, super bombs, space jumps, screw attacks. I've been playing a lot of Metroid in the last couple of weeks.
Oh my god. No, but I am looking forward to that. Obviously looking forward to the Switch. Definitely playing Quake getting on Quake as soon as we get off to get on that. But moving on, we have other news, not so much Gamescom, but we never got to talk about the remakes of GTA. So it's going to be GTA 3, GTA San Andreas, and GTA
Vice City.
Yeah. They're being recreated in the Unreal Engine too.
Which I really want to know what that means. I mean, that sounds like a really simple question. It's they're just remaking them in the Unreal Engine. It's but that could mean that they are taking the same visuals and gameplay style and just putting it in the Unreal Engine, kind of adapting things a little bit and upscaling it a bit so that it's just running in 4K, but it still looks like a PS2 game. Or it could mean, no, we're basically making this look like Days Gone, like a modern Unreal Engine game.
Yeah.
It's that's a pretty wide gap of possibility. I've been hearing more that it is going to be the kind of like the Quake
latter.
Remaster style. No, the former of it. It's going to be more like it looks like the PS2 games, but runs a lot better and plays a little bit more smoothly. I don't know if they're going to change the combat for GTA 3 and Vice City, because those are pretty rough looking at nowadays. They're basically all lock targeting stuff, whereas San Andreas had... I think San Andreas came out after Resident Evil 4 and did add sort of an over-the-shoulder aiming that felt a bit closer to what you'd consider a modern third-person shooter, but they're I don't know. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on this, and very interesting to see if what the rumor that if this does well, they will be doing the same thing for Red Dead Redemption. Because Red Dead Redemption on PC is something that I would love to see. Red Dead Redemption 2 is on PC and it's great, but the first one is kind of stuck on consoles. Though the Xbox 360 version running on an Xbox One X or higher looks incredible. Like they did a really good job with the 4K upscale there, but PlayStation owners are kind of out of luck. They have to play it on PlayStation Now, or if they have a PS3 kicking around, because PlayStation doesn't do backwards compatibility past PS4. And that also kind of reminds me that Epic just announced that they're releasing a remaster of Alan Wake, which is a game that I played just about 6 months ago. Like, it wasn't really even that long ago. It was just before Control came out. And that's pretty interesting to me, because Epic is also paying for like producing from the ground up and Alan Wake 2, a sequel that they've been wanting to make for like over 10 years now. And I'm no fan of the Epic Store.
I was about to say, like, you've brought this up before.
I am probably not going to buy or play the Alan Wake remaster, because I did just recently play the game, and on PC it still runs really, really well. In fact, if I did play it, maybe I'd play it on like PS5 or Xbox Series X, something like that, and just see how it looks on the new consoles. But I don't really like the Epic Store. At the same time, when they produce something from scratch, I'm more inclined to be okay with them making it exclusive to their store, because at least that's a project that only exists because they made it. So like Fortnite, or if they made if they made Unreal Championship 2022, I would probably download the Epic Store to play that, because I love Unreal Championship and Unreal Tournament. Haven't played one in forever because they haven't made one in the longest time, and that's Epic's series, right? Unreal Engine, Unreal Tournament, Unreal Championship, like that's their deal. And they're doing that with Alan Wake 2, releasing Alan Wake Remaster, obviously exclusive to the Epic Store on PC, but it's also coming out on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series, and it's a really solid game, so I do recommend playing that to all the console people. And PC people, you can still get the original game on GOG, and it runs in 4K at stupid frame rates, so I don't know what you need a remaster for there, but I don't know. I think that the interesting way that ties into the Rockstar stuff, though, the Grand Theft Auto, is Rockstar owns the first two Remedy games, Max Payne and Max Payne 2. So it makes me wonder, like, so if they did a remake of Max Payne 1 and 2 in Unreal Engine, of all things, like that would be a little bit strange, because it'd be like they're working with Epic's engine to remake a game from a studio that now Epic essentially owns, or at least is working very closely with these days, and releasing it as though, almost like, man, can't you guys just talk to each other and let Remedy just remake Max Payne 1 and 2 in their Northlight engine, what they made Control in? Like, I think that would be better, but I don't know. I guess we'll see how it goes. We'll have to just deal with playing Max Payne 1 on, I don't know, like mobile
PlayStation.
Because,
yeah.
Well, no, you can play it on PC, but the thing like doesn't run on modern operating systems for some reason. I could never get it to work properly. Max Payne 2 works, so like Max Payne 2 you can still play normally, but Max Payne 1 is just like a technical clusterfuck on PC. I don't know why, but so yeah, Rockstar, re-release Max Payne, please.
Rockstar just does not like PC at all, eh?
Yeah, I don't know why.
It is the master race.
It is. I think that's the thing. They want too much control.
Yeah. So moving on, something we obviously don't like getting into on this channel is politics, but something we did need to discuss is on September 4th, John Gibson, chief of Tripwire, tweeted out his
support of the Texas abortion law. I think is probably a good,
best way to
succinct
say
way
it.
to put it. Yeah, he basically said, "This law, I'm into it. I'm a pro-life game developer. Deal with it." And Twitter kind of exploded, and not a good way.
Very cancel culture ish. Even though this is a pretty serious issue, but obviously everyone got up in arms, and he later had to reply with, "As an entertainer, I don't get political often. Yet with so many vocal peers on the other side of this issue, I felt it was important to go on the record as a pro-life game developer."
Yeah, and I saw Cory Barlog, who's the director of God of War 2018, just laying into this guy. But like people who I like and respect were even laying into him too. That I'm not going to call them out here because I don't want to start fights with people I like. But I'm not that I don't like you, Cory Barlog, but I just thought that Cory Barlog was by far the most famous and prominent figure in the industry that was hammering this guy on it. And he resigned not too long after, and Tripwire released like one of those, like almost like the CD Projekt "we've delayed the game again" images, where it's like, "Tripwire Interactive, dear gamers, we would like to inform you that John Gibson has left." And honestly, I think speaking of God of War creators, the person with I think the most reasonable and balanced take on it was actually David Jaffe, who is a YouTuber now, and I think he is on. I don't know if he's on Twitch. He's definitely on YouTube, and he created the Twisted Metal series, and he created the original God of War. And he basically said that, yeah, he's on the pro-choice side of the issue very firmly. He was very clear about that. But he's like, but at the same time, it's like, I don't necessarily think that, can we not disagree with people on politics and then still work with them, still play their games? Like, does everything have to be a battle? And I think that he was also fair in saying that sometimes the answer to that is yeah, if it's something that you're that passionate about. And ultimately, should the answer be majority rules? So in the case of Tripwire, if tons of people at Tripwire Interactive said, well, if this guy's our CEO and he's publicly stating this about a law that we feel passionate about, we're going to walk. And you're one of the other people that's like an executive at Tripwire, and you're saying, hey, like, we're going to lose all the people who make Maneater while they're working on DLC that we already announced. And the Killing Floor guys are going to leave too. We're going to lose half the staff on our Killing Floor team. The Chivalry guys are going to go. Like, it's like, okay, we've got these teams. A bunch of them now are super furious and talking about getting jobs other places. What are we going to do here? And I think that they might have made the right decision by saying, yeah, maybe you should resign. But at the same time, like, it's really tough for me to get on board with either of those mentalities, because I think when it comes right down to it with me, like me being a person who's fairly liberal, like I'm on the left end of center, like I'm pretty, I guess, south on the north-south compass. Like I'm fairly libertarian as well. But I'd say I don't know, my stances on things like education and healthcare definitely put me on the left. And I'm in the military, so I work with a lot of guys that are like straight up conservatives. But like, I don't give them shit for their political opinions, because ultimately it's like, oh, I mean, on election day, you're going to circle a different box than me. That's pretty much it, though. Like, other than
you gotta have open dialogue, because that's how progress is made.
Or not. I mean, if it's a topic that you're going to blow up at each other over, just don't have open dialogue about that. You know where each other stands. And it's like, okay, let's move on.
That's a good point.
Like, we can just not address that issue around each other, because I know I'm not going to convince you. You know you're not going to convince me. Let's go get a beer.
Yeah. On to the next. Let's talk about things we can discuss.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's so good about gaming. And even though I'm not like a giant sports fan, I think also sports. That's one of the things that's kind of cool about those hobbies, because you don't necessarily need to have a strong political opinion to be like, yeah, let's go watch the Leafs game, or, let's play some Quake. Like it's something that we can come together over despite our differences, which is why I think ultimately I sympathize with the people at Tripwire who maybe felt a bit put on the spot by their CEO saying, this is my stance. Because that's kind of in a way, like if you have CEO of Tripwire Interactive in your Twitter bio, you're sort of speaking on behalf of all the people under you. And if it's a hot button political issue like that, maybe the best thing you can do as the leader of a company is not like keep that to yourself, or not necessarily even say that, oh, I'm pro-choice and go against. Like, I think those people should be keeping it to themselves also, even if the current cultural zeitgeist is that, yeah, it's okay to be pro-choice, it's just not okay to be pro-life. I think ultimately it's like, well, you make video games, man. Like, do you need to be talking about either of those things on a public forum like Twitter? And I know I kind of land on no, but
yeah,
I mean, not that you shouldn't be allowed to. It's just I don't necessarily think it's a good idea.
Yeah, especially when you're the CEO of a company too, right? A publicly traded company.
Yeah, like you represent all the people underneath you, and if they have strong disagreements with you, they're going to revolt. So you should probably just not.
Just shut the fuck up. Moving on to our favorite portion of these podcasts, our Dead Space updates, where we finally got a new look at the new Dead Space remake coming out. Still no announced date ready for the Dead Space remake. It just says sometime next year from EA Motive. But we got some good things to look at. So first of all, the new textures, especially his new suit, looking pretty good. I don't know if have you had a chance to look at all the upgrades?
Yeah, and I mean it looks good. I think I'm still kind of on the. I'm kind of on the team of but I mean the original version also still looks really good for its time.
Looks great on our PCs. Yeah, it did look good, but no, you have to admit, like even the new lighting, the new environment, it looks like it got a top down upgrade.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that they haven't done a good job. I think that though from a visual standpoint, I'm still kind of on. I still don't know if we need this. That being said, some of the other stuff that I guess if you want to talk about,
let's go through it.
With, so.
Okay, so the first thing was the combat. So now, not only are you trying to dismember the necromorphs, you're also going to be able to peel away their skin.
Yep, and I thought that was really cool. That the idea that weapons like the pulse rifle, or even the flamethrower, I'd imagine, would probably be a peeling weapon, were effective, but they almost would break lore in some ways, because the idea was that the necromorphs are killed by cutting off their limbs. So with the pulse rifle, you could still knock off a limb. It was just harder to do because it's basically like an automatic assault rifle. So you have to hit the same spot a whole bunch of times to knock a limb off. Whereas with the plasma cutter, you just shoot a line of plasma through and it just cuts the limb off essentially right away, unless it's one of the stronger ones.
Yeah, the fully upgraded line cutter.
Yeah, the line cutter is pretty crazy too. Especially you can do the things where you're setting traps with it and stuff. But
yeah,
let's not get too into the weeds of the old Dead Space, because
we go.
I think everyone knows where we stand on those games. They're great.
Yeah.
Haven't got to Dead Space 3 though. We'll let you know when we get there. But the skin peeling thing I think is kind of cool, because the idea if it's like, okay, breaking the bones is what kills them, then hey, like if you can see the skin peeling away and then it exposes bone and then you can hit that spot and then shatter the bones and still kills them, it's like, oh, okay, that's pretty clever. And I don't think it strays too far from the original lore of like the necromorphs and how you kill them. And I think it could make some more weapons viable. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, Motive at least has some good new ideas that they're throwing in there. They're simple, but could change the gameplay for the better.
So another change from the original Dead Space, but not Dead Space 2, is the voice actor from Dead Space 2 is reprising his role as Isaac, Gunnar Wright. So he doesn't really talk at all in the first Dead Space, but they are going to allow him to talk. However, Motive has released some rules about how his dialogue will take place. So the rule number 1 is Isaac will primarily only speak when spoken to, and 2, Isaac will sometimes speak in a situation where it would feel weird if he remained silent, which I guess we'll have to. I'm gonna take a wait and see on this approach because we'll have to see when and where they do it. But it does make sense because he was spoken to a lot in the first Dead Space, and it's kind of weird that he does not say anything. Like even like a oh fuck, what's this? It's kind of weird when you think about it.
Yeah, in the first game, he was playing by the Link and or Gordon Freeman rule of just, hey, this guy just doesn't talk. Okay, deal with it. And every so often there'd be a character, at least in Half-Life 2, where they'd be like, yeah, you don't say much, do you? but I do like a lot that they're setting restrictions on like making rules about how and when Alex about how and when Isaac can talk, because I think that is crucial for writing. As much as a lot of people will say, yeah, writing is incredible because you can write anything and everything. It's like the rules are whatever your imagination can think of. No, stop that, because that's how people start writing silly shit. The best way for you to write something that actually makes sense, especially if it's within an already established universe and story, and like Dead Space 2, an established character that already does speak, is setting guidelines and be like, okay, let's make it so that we can still preserve this experience that did previously have a silent protagonist, but have him not be silent. So when is this person going to talk, and what kind of stuff are they going to say? And I have very little faith in Motive's ability to write well, because the two things that they've done are Star Wars Battlefront 2's campaign and the Star Wars Squadrons campaign. Both of them do not have good stories at all. Like they're very, very badly written. That being said, if they're mostly just using the script from the original Dead Space and only writing dialogue for one character, could be all right. And especially putting themselves in a box where it's like, no, we don't have all of the Star Wars universe where we can have these characters saying just whatever they want. We have one character that we're writing for, and we're having him say specific things in specific circumstances. That could actually work out well. Also, Mitch Dyer isn't working at Motive anymore. He's making Gotham Knights and at Eidos Montreal? Not Eidos Montreal. What's the Warner WB Montreal? So he left Motive, and he was the lead writer on the other two projects I mentioned. So maybe they hired a new guy who's better, or new girl. I don't know. Well, who's to say that a female can't write Isaac's voice? Like, we're very progressive over here. In case anyone
to be fair, most of the dialogue in Dead Space 1 was from a female.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. Yeah, actually, yeah, there were 3 characters who did a lot of talking in the original Dead Space, and 2 of them were women. And I guess there was the villain guy.
Yeah, the priest.
Was he a priest? The one with the beard. That I feel like I've seen him in other movies too. There was the guy who, like the black dude who was the leader of your mission. Yeah, the sergeant of your mission. Then there was the girl that we won't say much about that girl. And then Isaac's girlfriend or wife.
Girlfriend,
yeah. And they were kind of the main characters. And there was the one antagonist who you see through a window twice, and then or 3 times, something like that. And then you just see him in the video chat thing, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, right. Primarily female characters.
Yeah. Some other things they are changing is in the 0G gravity room or therapy room. You'll have 360-degree movement and thrusters. And they've also mentioned that they've improved the physics of the 0G. So,
over Dead Space 2, I'd imagine. Because Dead Space 1 had 0G, but it didn't have free movement, like as you know.
Yeah.
But when you play, the first time you get to a 0G area in Dead Space 2, you're going to be like, whoa, I can just fly anywhere?
Yeah.
Like, it really caught me off guard. I was like, oh, this is way different.
Well, like, I guess from the original game, they're changing the 0G.
It was just jump from surface to surface in a straight line. And
they also mentioned they're going to fine-tune the story to better connect with their other games, primarily Dead Space 2 and 3. Again, how they do this is more than what they're going to do, right? Like, I'm going to have to see it in the gameplay to judge whether they did a good job or not.
The more they say, yeah, we're going to adjust the stories to make it make more sense with, I'm just like,
calm down.
Like,
calm down.
Easy. But I mean, again, like I think that I'm a big enough fan of Dead Space at this point. I'm like, I mean, honestly, I can't, even if Dead Space 3 is the worst game I've ever played, I like Dead Space 1 and 2 enough that I will be playing the Dead Space remake, even if all the early buzz I'm hearing on it is that it's terrible, for probably the same reason that I'm playing Dead Space 3, regardless of how many people have told me it's terrible, because it's like, I kind of just need to know at this point. Like,
just need to know.
Yeah.
And finally, the best news, well, if it's true, unless Big EA comes over Motive and says that they're not doing this anymore, was the no microtransaction, which is a thing that a lot of people mention ruined Dead Space 3. But we'll have to see if that holds true, right? Like, at any point, EA could just be like, you know what?
I don't think
microtransactions.
They haven't done any microtransactions on Star Wars Squadrons, I believe. And that's a game that realistically they could have been pumping DLC into that and making it a very microtransaction heavy game. And they didn't, because they could have just added things like new ships and had people pay for them. But I think they might have got burned hard enough with Star Wars Battlefront 2 that they've realized that pumping the brakes on the old MTX might be a good idea. They're still going full bore on FIFA and Madden in those games because the sports genre can't be helped at this point.
and Call of Duty.
And not EA.
Oh man, yeah, Activision. Just evilness is all around us. Besides that, anything else you had to mention in this week's episode?
Not really. Pretty much all I've been doing in the last little bit is playing Metroid games, and we did sort of touch on that when we were talking about the Dread trailer. I just, as I said, just finished Zero Mission. A couple days ago, I finished Metroid Fusion and Metroid Prime on the same day, which was fantastic because those two games came out on the same day in 2002. So I was like, wow, what are the odds? Because I finished Metroid Prime, went upstairs, sitting in bed playing Metroid Fusion on my laptop with baby Jojo, and just finished Metroid Fusion. I'm like, fuck, I finished 2 games in one day. How about that? And God, same day.
Literally takes me like a month to finish a game. It took me a month to finish fucking Dead Space.
I play Metroid Zero Mission because if you take more than 8 hours to play Metroid Zero Mission, I don't believe you. Like I knocked that game out in 2 sittings, and one of them was like half an hour before I went to bed.
Would you play them on?
Well, obviously I played them on a Game Boy Advance SP because that's the way. No, I played it on an emulator.
Oh my God, I honestly believed you for a second there.
No.
Right now, honestly, for all the scrubs out there, actually for all the pro gamers, how many consoles do you have access to at this present time?
Without hooking anything up?
First, without hooking anything up.
Okay. Okay, so there's 3 over there.
Okay, what are they?
PlayStation 5, an Xbox Series X, and a Switch.
Okay.
Though technically, though, that's just my Switch dock because I gave my Switch to Xray Girl so that she can play things. So,
okay, you have it. It's right there.
For Quake, I bought it on what is now her Switch, even though it was my account, and then capture the footage over there because I've also got the PC hooked up to that TV. Here, this TV, though, just a PC. Actually, there's an Xbox 360 there, but it's not hooked up. It's an Xbox 360, though. Come on.
I'm just curious. How many consoles?
Sorry, there's a PS3 over there as well.
There we go.
My Vita, my DS, my Game Boy SP, and my 3DS are somewhere in my boiler room, but I don't know where. Part of that is a victim of us still kind of being half moved in because we're waiting for our kitchen to be finished. And basically our storage space is limited, so I'm not going to start unpacking things that are just in the boiler room, but the portable systems that I own, so a Vita, a PSP, a Game Boy Advance SP, a DSi or DS Lite, and a 3DS XL are in there somewhere. Oh yeah, and then I have what is that thing called again? Shit, I keep on forgetting. Not a Retron. Anyways, it's like this kind of emulator system that has Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, Sega Genesis, and Famicom slots that you can like put cartridges in, and it basically rips them into ROMs. So that's how I got like my ROM of Metroid Zero Mission. Is I have a physical copy of Metroid Zero Mission. I put it into this thing, and then it ripped it and made a ROM for me.
Wow. So you have access to over 10 consoles right now.
Yeah, but what's really funny is I would not call myself a console gamer.
Yeah, but like, what's really funny is you could probably play Skyrim on. So far, it sounds like 7 of the 8 consoles it's been released on.
Yeah, no, I think all of them actually. Like I
Well,
can't.
You didn't say PS4, but I'm pretty sure you have a PS4.
I play
somewhere.
PS5 games on a PS4 games on a PS5 though.
That's good. Well,
I think the PS4 is in Xray Girl's room, like in her office, or it might be in our bedroom actually.
For the kids listening at home, if you try hard and work hard, you too could be more than just a scrub.
Yeah, that's true. But most of the money I make is not on YouTube; it's in the military. So kids don't necessarily follow in my single footstep. Get it? Because I only have one mic. Yeah.
Got it. I'm on it.
I don't necessarily recommend the military. Is what I'm saying.
Oh my god. And I think that about wraps it up on this week's episode. As always, I recommend that you don't be good. It's
get good, scrubs.